Welcome everyone to the first session of the year, and today we're going to talk about presencing that idea of being present. These are my details as always, so you can connect in with me after today and check in and ask more questions if you like. But to always start our sessions, we always start with acknowledging the lands to which we're from right now. So I'm coming to you from Meanjin, which is Brisbane, and this is Turrbal Yugara lands. So in the chat, when you have a moment, can you just highlight which lands you're from? Because I think that's a really valuable way of us learning all the lands that we inhabit, because we acknowledge the lands we come from and are grateful to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, our First Nations owners of the land, that they share the lands with us. We acknowledge their and respect the elders, laws, customs and creation spirits. So thank you. So as usual, we're only here for a very short time. So if you keep yourself on mute, but then if you want to jump in and join the discussion, because we do spend a lot of time talking about our experiences in this session, can you just jump in? Unmute yourself, jump in, have a chat. It's kind of a beautiful way we get along in this session. These are our copyrights and disclaimers, so that if you want to use this material, maybe you want to work with your team and talk about being present, you think that that might benefit your team to understand what being present is all about, just you can borrow the material. It lives on the learning management system, which you can all access for free. And as long as you keep our copyright on there and acknowledge us as the creators of the material, we're happy for you to share. So this comes to this point, which we always do every workshop. We come together and we go, how are we going to presence today? What are we going to be? And I always talk about this you theory, which is Otto Scharmer's Presencing Institute, who for many years as a group have created this way of being. And we're going to have a bit of a closer look at this today. But the idea of presencing is that you come to your day with an open mind so that you're curious, an open heart so you can have compassion, and an open will, which is courage. So these are the three facets that you come to everything with, so that you don't have fear, hate and anger and ignorance governing your day. So that's what this is all about. And so this is what we're going to talk to a little bit more today, because we're sort of going to look at this idea of presencing versus being present. We're going to sort of understand why we're not present in moments, like what's going on. What is the outcome of not being present? How can we be more present? What are the benefits of being present? And we're going to leave today with a commitment. We're going to leave today with a commitment to being, to making time to be more present in the future. So how can we just tweak a little bit of what we're doing every day? So, and that brings us to this whole idea of what Frank Zappa's little quote there says, is that, you know, we're going to open our minds a bit today to allow some of this to happen. So that's about us being present. Here we go. So the idea of presencing. So who's familiar with this presencing and this you theory way of being? Has anyone heard that before? I mean, I know many of you have because you've been in my sessions, but does anybody know what that is?
It sounds, so it's Jenny here, it sounds very, very kind of similar to mindfulness.
It is,
or is
has elements of.
Okay.
No, it has elements of. So very good, Jenny. Excellent. So this idea of presencing is actually a bit more than being present, and it's actually a leadership capacity and part of the 7 leadership capacities of effective leaders. So to be an effective leader, you must have presencing. So what that is that idea that we connect to the deeper sources of self. So we really understand who we are. We understand our biases. We understand our strengths. we understand the things that trigger us, so that when we come to an event or a person or a place or a something, we understand when we're challenged, and then we understand potentially how we're going to react. So we are in that moment and very aware of self. Okay. And therefore, we can almost predict that we can manage any event. I mean, that is phenomenal, to think that no matter what happens, you have such a strong understanding of yourself that you can handle anything. That's fine. Go cyclone. I've got this. All right. That's the idea. All right. And the reason that this is so important, and this is quite, I guess it is emerging knowledge. It's something that is evolving, and the Presencing Institute has come from MIT, so it's US based, and it is this whole, and it's come from a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists research about, you know, what makes us us. And the reason it's become such a big thing is because of massive institutional failures. Okay, so where we're collectively creating results that nobody wants. So that's a big issue that we're suffering. And we've got, because of climate change, our world is changing. We've got to stop doing things the way we've always done them, because our world is very different now. We've got climate change, more hunger, poverty, terrorism, violence. We're destruction of communities, cultures, nature, life. There's socioeconomic, like there is so much change going on, and we have to raise a new consciousness, a new way of being, a new way forward if we're going to keep up with this. So this is what presencing and this component of leadership is all about, and this theory, U theory, sits within that. So I mean, I have explained a couple of years of research in a sentence or two. Does this make sense to people, what this is? Yeah.
Sue, can I just ask, if is there a balance between when you know something triggers you, or you know potentially you might, you know, you're aware of things, to actively being in the moment, but also having the courage to step away, or not avoiding, because sometimes, you know, if I know something's going to trigger me, I'd rather avoid it. Or is there more courage in actually kind of facing it, but knowing I'm going to be triggered? But I think there's a balance, isn't there, of having that self-awareness, and of either avoiding it or, okay, how am I going to deal with this, knowing I'm going to be triggered?
Exactly. And this is part of one of those developmental components of U theory. So I know that I'm going to be triggered, but I've got the courage of self to still go forward. Okay. And that courage comes from knowing that I have within me my strengths and my values that will direct me in the right way. So I will go into instances where I know that they're going to be really hard, but yet I will still go into them, and I will try and use some of my resilience skills, some of my capacity that I have developed over time, and I believe in myself to actually handle that. But sometimes still having that courage in a moment, I still might lose myself. Okay, because I'm human. You know what? I'm not a robot. So I still may lose myself. So then, as Jenny pointed out in that sentence, I will still have the courage to withdraw myself, but do it in a way that it is on my terms. So I will not react. I will not yell. I will not scream. I will not do those things that I would do. I will just go, look, this has got to a place where I'm not comfortable. I'm going to walk away, but I am going to come back later, and I'm going to come back to this. Okay. And it's about having that default sentence that is yours, that is authentically you, that prepares you to come back and do it. And that is one of these great, that's presencing. Did that help you, Jenny? Yeah, great. All right. So I have given in this presentation, and I will have this PowerPoint up in the LMS for you too. I've given you the link to the Presencing Institute so that you can go. It's a really big website with a lot of research, a lot of evidence. There's also some great tools in there if you want to work with teams to, talk about these theories and develop capacity of your team as well. It's just something if you're wanting to grow people, you can actually go in there, and all their materials are free as well. So presencing and being present are a little bit different, because presencing really is coming from that leadership landscape and that really driving teams forward. But being present is really just is an important part of it. Okay, so every time you come to something, are you present? I will say, no, I'm not, because of all of these things that I've got in front of the screen. Now, do you agree with this? What are some reasons that you may be not present? Does anyone want to unmute and identify sometimes where they're not present?
Hello, Sue. It's May.
Hello, May.
I would say probably if you've got a to-do list in your mind and you're like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And then obviously that's from a work perspective. And then if you're thinking of, oh, I've got to go pick up the kids, I need to finish this meeting on time, I need to do this, that sort of stuff. And so as much as you physically might be there, in your mind, you're like, oh, no, I forgot about this, I have to add this, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm totally. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely juggling everything going on. And as you said, it's personal, professional. It's all the different hats that we wear. That it is difficult sometimes to actually just be in the moment and actually go. Oh. And you do need to remind yourself and have that moment to come back, I think, occasionally when things start, the plates start slipping a little bit.
I love it that we have a room of people who really get it, who just go, yeah. And because you're all human, you are humans, you've got feelings, you've got life, you've got all these things on. And I hope that you forgive yourself, because we cannot be present all the time. We try our best and we do a darn good job mostly, but we're not robots, are we? So I hope we have that kindness and compassion for self, that we do forgive ourselves sometimes. So excellent, you've covered that off beautifully. So, but when we're not present, potentially what happens, so when you've been at work and in your life, have you noticed times when, in interactions with other people around you, when people haven't been present, have you noticed how that impacts those people when people are not being present with each other?
It's me again. You'd probably have miscommunications, or, you might have been told something and you're like, yeah, no, that's fine. And in reality, you didn't process it. And then after the fact, they're like, oh, where's that? And you're like, oh, I'm not sure what you're talking about. So
that is great. And I think I notice it when I see people not being present with each other when they're having communications. And I think sometimes one person is present, the other person is not, and then how that person walks away from the conversation, and you can almost see hunched shoulders, and I get that sense that that person feels devalued because they're not clear, they don't really know what's happening, they feel like they don't know anything more from going into the conversation. Okay, and I don't know, it doesn't look great, and I think it's really important to take time to do it, to really value each other. I've put a video link in here, and it's a really cheesy cheesy sort of thing, I might play it. What the heck? It's only a couple of minutes. I think it's 2 minutes and 14 seconds. It's a bit cheesy, but it's showing a conversation where people are not being present with each other, and then what that looks like, and you'll feel all sorts of awkwardness, trust me.
Hey Ruth, how's it going? I heard you had 2 dogs, and I
Can you see that?
if you have a cat too, or what kind of pets do you have?
Wait, what?
I was wondering if you had 2 dogs.
Yeah, I have a dog.
You have a dog?
Yeah, his name's Tui.
Just
Hey,
one?
did you watch SpongeBob?
No, but I really had some questions about your dog or your dogs, because I'm having a problem with my dog. Did you say you have 2 dogs or just 1?
Wait, what?
How many dogs do you have?
Okay, so are you still going? Okay, so was I paying attention to Sue? What was my body language and my words saying to Sue? Was I paying attention, or did it seem like I was interested? Okay, now here's what I could have done, or here's what Sue could have done to fix the conversation if it seems like I'm not paying attention. And you can just say those words. I don't think you're paying attention to me.
Hey Ruth, I was asking you about your dogs. Did you say you have 2 dogs? Ruth, are you paying attention to me at all?
Oh, hi Sue.
Hi, I'm having a problem with my dog, and I wanted some information about your dogs.
Right.
So, do you have 2 dogs?
I have 2 dogs, yeah. And Sue, sorry, it might have seemed like I'm not paying attention, but sometimes I just have so much going on in my head, and I'm thinking about different things, and it really helps when you prompted me to turn around and sit up and pay attention to you. So thanks.
Okay, sure. I get that. That happens to me too sometimes.
So what were you talking about?
I wanted to ask you a question about your dogs, because I'm having a problem with my dog, and I couldn't seem to get an answer out of you.
Yeah, Sue, I have 2 dogs. What's the matter with your dog?
Well, my dog keeps jumping on people when they come over to my house, and I'm trying to get him to lay off that bad behavior. So I'm wondering if you have any ideas.
I do. I actually watched some YouTube videos on how to train my dog. I'll send you the link.
Oh, great. That would be awesome.
I like it because I don't know, it just gives it that moment of, someone being honest and saying, oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention, but I thank you for asking me to pay attention. Have you ever who's had the confidence to ever do that when they've noticed someone's not present with them or paying attention to them? Have you ever had the courage to just say, oh, look, you look really busy in your head, maybe we should come back and do this another time, or this is a really important question, can I ask it now? Have you ever had confidence like that?
Around probably just saying, hey, you okay? You look a bit distracted today. What's up? More in that sense than, oh, can you pay attention? More in the sense of, yeah, you don't, yeah.
No, that's perfect, Maze. And that's what we have to try to do that, because as we just pointed out in the last slide, we've got 10 million things going on in our heads because, as we've discussed before in these sessions, 15,000 thoughts a day, right? So that's so much thinking and a lot of it's automatic. And in other research, it shows that we're paying attention to 47% of our thoughts a day of that 15,000. So can you see it's busy up here? So, if we have the courage to notice if someone else is okay, or, really if they're a bit distracted, can we come back and have a conversation another time? Do you need lunch? I don't know. There's lots of just beautiful, curious ways we can check in on people to make sure they're okay. Personally, if someone isn't present with you, how do you feel?
I was going to say it's the frustration, and especially when you yourself have 101 things to do. I only have 2 minutes to explain this to you, and if you're not listening, I'm going to get angry. And so then it's also being aware of what's going on in your mind as well as what's going on in someone else's. I think is sometimes when it catches you on a bad day, it can go badly.
Yes, exactly. And because we have so many interactions going on in a day, and so another really interesting researcher in this space is Richard J. Davidson, and he talks about this idea that more and more in some of the reasons in society we have more detachment and we're not as community focused as we once were, is he calls it, we are the society of the attention deficit. So we are struggling to be present because we have integrated so many, we have allowed, he didn't say integrated actually, he says we have allowed so many systems to come into our life to take our time. So we have allowed phones, we have allowed technology, we have allowed emails, we have allowed so many things to come in and add to our time, which has kind of led to some really detachment from the humanness of sitting with someone and having a conversation. And that yarning and that sitting together and coming together as community, we're losing that. And that has really detrimental effects to us as humans, because we're meant to be connected, and we're meant to bond, and we're meant to react to each other, and we're meant to touch and feel, because our nerve endings and our brain was made that way. Yes, Jenny.
I was going to say as well, I think the connections tend to be quite superficial as well. Like you say, with emails and social media, you want a connection, but I think the presence now is, if you do not reply immediately to my email or immediately to my text, it gives that sense of you're ignoring me, I'm not important, you're not focusing on what I believe is important. And I think that then just creates an even more busyness, because it's just things, you come back to work and there's like, you know, especially when you're on annual leave, you come back to like 300 emails and you're like, okay, now which one do I prioritize? And yeah, so I think that adds another element to it. You want to be present, but I think whose priority do you give presence to, I guess?
Yeah, and it's that allowing point. And I think that was the point that he was really trying to make. It's, what are you going, and it comes back to that courage and thing again, to what are you going to be courageous enough to say, no, I'm not actually going to do that, and I'm not going to be part of that, and I'm not going to do that, and this is how I work, and this is how I will be present with people, so people, you know, will know that I'm there for them. So I am authentically with them whenever I am with them. And he said, and sometimes for some people, that has meant actually reducing the amount of contact they have with people. So instead of doing that superficial connecting in and having meetings that don't really mean anything, well, reduce them and make sure that the meetings that you have are quality focused. You know, and so think on things a different way, and, you know, and not wanting to be liked on social media and those sorts of things. It was other points he talked about, because he actually said there's an epidemic with us as a society where anxiety, loneliness, negative self-talk and depression has really skyrocketed. With, you know, and he included obesity in there as well, because we are eating our feelings because we don't know what to do. And interestingly enough, in his data, which I find really interesting, is that he noted that since the year 2000, there has been a doubling of teenage suicide rates, which also correlate with the increase of technology and increase of social media functions and all those sorts of things. So I wonder at what point we will use that data and we'll actually see that, yeah, maybe we should learn from the data, learn from the numbers and notice correlations that go together. And, you know, and he said, as this trajectory keeps going, he expects that people, because of this lack of presence and this lack of community and this lack of being connected, that is actually leading to decreased lifespans, and as a society we will have shorter lifespans as well. So, and I just think, oh yeah, this is the risk of not being present, you know, and wow, what can we do differently?
So do you think as well there's also this big fear of missing out?
Oh,
so there's
definitely.
so much stimulation now, and it's kind of, you've got to do this and you've got to do that and you've got to do this and you've got to kind of, and then you're bouncing around all over the place trying to, because there's so much now, and actually yeah, people, like you say, it's quality rather than quantity.
Exactly. And that's what he's daring people to do. He's saying, be bold, be courageous, decide where you choose to be present. And that's what that's where they're coming from. But then the issue is, a lot of people don't know how to be present because they've grown up in this new generation where it hasn't been explained to them. They haven't seen it, so they haven't learned it. They haven't seen it role modeled. They, you know, there's this gap in time where it's not clear to them how to be present. And so it's that, how do I be present? And so I guess that's where mentoring and coaching and those concepts that we're coming together, and we're here as a hub today to talk about, is about how can we be present. And in the literature, it talks about you have to know, you have to get to learn yourself, and you have to spend time with yourself to understand who you are. Okay. And I don't know, do you know a lot of people who spend time on that? No, you're all shaking your head. So I'm going to take that as no, we're not. Why? And can I just an additional question that's just popped into my head? Why are we not spending time with ourselves to understand ourselves? Why is that?
In terms of, like, you know, to look in is either selfish or alternative lifestyle.
Oh, actually, I've heard, actually, you raise a really good point on that selfish point, Caroline. I have actually heard that before. Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
I think as well, people don't like what they see when they look inside. I think they've sometimes got to admit to biases, value, whatever, that actually they don't like. And I think it's painful and uncomfortable, and I think they want to avoid it.
Yeah, excellent. I love it.
I think it's time constraints as well because of other obligations. So sometimes it's just you don't have the time, and you know you're busy at work, and then you go home and you've got, you know, in my case I've got 2 tiny humans, so you know, gotta manage them, and then you know after that it's just like the house is a mess. So you know, it's an ongoing list of to-dos, and probably this is not a priority in that list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the busyness is what gets us most of the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Renata. Look, you're all perfect. Like, you've got it figured out. But I think you're here because you invest time in yourself, is what I'm hazarding a guess on. So I'm, as I always say, preaching to the converted here. But so our job sometimes is to go, how can we get people on board with this? How can we use what we know to help other people to come on board with this? Okay. And, you know, and obviously giving ourselves time, moments to be present is really important. Now,
if you want to live an amazing life, a truly abundant, happy life, make it a priority to live more in the present moment. You don't need fancy cars. You don't need millions of dollars. You don't need things. All you need is within you now. All you need is this very moment, right now. This precious present moment. To be part of all the miracles that are around you, and indeed a part of you right now. All unhappiness is formed when we take our being away from the present moment. Stress, disappointment, and anger when we think about events of our past that we have no control over right now. Anxiety or worry when we think about the future, also of which we have no control over right now. Most of us seem to be always searching for someplace else, some better moment in the future. But that moment never comes. Because when that moment comes, we want more. When we just stop and appreciate everything in this moment, everything most take for granted, like the life in our bodies, like the energy inside us, like the miracle of human life, like the miracle of creation, the wonder of this universe, the wonder of you being able to communicate to all parts of your body without speaking a word, the wonder of our senses, the sun, the rain, the air you breathe in right now. When we can truly grasp this powerful present moment, there are no problems. There are only miracles. Many think being lost in the present moment might eliminate any chance of growth or success in their life. However, the opposite is true. When everything you do is infused with your presence, everything you do is done with more quality, more connection, with more love. And when you are more connected with everything you do, there is greater success on all levels. The success all of us seek is really just the feeling we believe we'll get in achieving it. So the success itself is really a feeling. And any feeling, even the highest elation, can be achieved right now when your attention, when your appreciation is 100% focused on this perfect present moment. When we stop seeking an endpoint and instead make each moment an end in itself, when we can appreciate the journey so much that a destination is not needed, the journey is the new destination, a new miracle. That's what life is really all about. Making the most out of each moment, appreciating the wonder and miracles in each moment. You need nothing, materially speaking. You are complete as you are right now.
So what are the benefits of being present? So in this session, I've actually added up on the learning management system an article that really highlights all of this based on research that you might choose to watch. Also, at the end of this presentation, there is many great links to some people who've really thought about this. So Rich J. Davidson and a few other people who are talking to this as well, which I would encourage you, if you've got time, to go and watch that. But as you can read this, present moment awareness is associated with enhanced responses to daily stress. You're better prepared. You're, we're more adaptive. We have that flexibility, but we have to reinvest every day in this. And that's where you brought it up. How do we find the time to do this? So maybe that's what we could think about right now. That's what we could commit to right now, is how will we focus on being present to practice some mindfulness for ourselves every day. Now, in a lot of literature, they talk about it takes 3 minutes per day to have a mindful presence, to actually combat some of that anxiety, depression, those sorts of things that we're working with. Who here would have a spare 3 minutes in a day to maybe start making a new habit? I do. I can start making a new habit. I think I've got a spare 3 minutes, and in some of the things you can watch about mindfulness, it talks about when you're on the train, could you do some meditation? Could you put your headphones in and close your eyes and log into a site like Headspace and do some of the meditations with them? Some of their meditations go for 3 minutes, some go for 10 minutes, some go for 20 minutes. I guess it would depend on the length of your commute. Brushing your teeth can become a meditative state. Apparently, I haven't experienced this. Has anyone ever experienced this? No. I thought it was a little odd, but I didn't want to judge because I have compassion. It's part of my U theory training. I have compassion and I am not judgmental. Yes, morning wake up rituals. Anyway, there's this whole idea that we can create a new system and a new way of being to integrate this daily into our lives so that it becomes our new present habit. Okay, this is awesome to me. And I think I would like you to leave today with a commitment to yourself. What are you going to do differently tomorrow to take 3 minutes to be with yourself and be present with yourself? If you've thought of something, can I ask you to write it down on a notebook in front of you or a post-it note in front of you? And I want you to take that post-it note. If you're at home, stick it on your bathroom mirror or your kitchen fridge or the toilet cistern, wherever you frequent regularly in your house. And I want you to do it tomorrow. Okay, this is what you've committed to for yourself today. Keep a gratefulness diary. So just before they go to bed, they write down 3 things they're grateful for before they go to sleep. So that's the last thing that they think of. So that's their rule.
I'm someone who doesn't live very much in the present, so I know that I'm always racing ahead.
But that's exhausting, Kelly. Do you get tired racing ahead all the time?
Yeah, and I think I do it because I used to get to a point where I'd always think of things after they happened on how I should have responded or whatnot. So now I try to think about things before they happen. But I think there is great power in living present.
Your spirit just be calm when you just can find that beauty in a moment, and to take those calm moments and find them in a day. It just makes I know it just makes the day, it just feels calm, and you don't run out of time, and you feel that the world it's just a beautiful, endless bunch of goodness. I don't know. I don't know that I'm very good at using words, but I know I sit in it sometimes, and it's this beautiful, calm place where anything's possible, and it's amazing. And I just wish I was a poet and had flowery words to go with it, because that would be really good. Or maybe, if I was Taylor Swift, I could write a song about it. I don't know. But anyway, but just thinking about, maybe there's something you've learned new today about being present and this idea of presencing. So how do you think you could use it tomorrow? Do you think you could use it tomorrow to just change, to make a little tweak on what you're doing today?
I think I'd like to explore more of that view of what does that actually mean?
Great, because I gave you the link, and if you look at there's 7 portals, to understand the 7 steps. So presencing is number 4 of 7 steps. Maybe introducing some of your team to just even this session, maybe encourage them to jumping into the LMS and just having a look at this session and seeing if they understand the idea of being present and how it could change the way they're doing things every day. I don't know, like there's got to be something that we can do to get people more excited about this. I think because I know the value of it, and I think it's like worth millions of dollars, but it surprises me that nobody gets on board with it.
I would say I'm with you, Sue, because since starting a new job, I'm forcing the team to embrace check-ins, which is just that mindfulness activity at the beginning of a meeting to kind of refocus. And, you know, I am experiencing some people are, you know, see the eyes roll and those sorts of things, but you know, knowing that power that it has of just stopping, like just being that circuit breaker of people's thoughts and everything else going on in their lives, just to make that meeting, like you said, more quality rather than quantity.
Exactly. Not just ticking a box because, oh, then I know I've done it. Make it valuable to people. It's really got to have some value. Excellent. Well, my last little final thought for the day is from Thich Nhat Hanh. He is he's a leader in happiness. He is amazing, and I love watching his YouTubes where he talks about what it is to be happy. And he says, do not lose yourself in the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. Do not get caught in your anger, worries, or fears. Come back to the present moment and touch life deeply. This is mindfulness. He just blows my mind. Anyway, I love him. If you've not listened to any of his talks before, YouTube, he features strongly in YouTube. He, you know, has a lot of the teachings originally from the Dalai Lama, and is well regarded in compassion. Speaking of the Dalai Lama, I can't believe I've got to the end of this session without saying his name before now, because he is the God of everything in my head. So basically how mindfulness changes the emotional life of our brain. So that is a shortened, condensed version of which I think is really important to probably get your head around, because it's where Richard J. Davidson talks around all of those ideas of why we're living in a society of attention deficit, and we're losing our community and losing our people, but not doing enough about it. And so I think that's it's a condensed version. I think it's only 14 minutes. Actually, I didn't put the timing on there, but it's 14 minutes, that one. And then a beautiful monk here talking about, you know, how can we be in the present now? And then another woman who just talks about the power of mindfulness and what it can do. And so these are great links for you to just probably hop in and, you know, have more thinking on it too. And they're just little snippets, so they're not onerous as well. But that's me today. How's everyone feeling about that? Can I just check in with your feelings? I'm going to be present with you now. Check in with your feelings. See how you're going with today. You're good? Great. Well, be present tomorrow, please. Be present for you, and thank you for your time.